Welcome to In Her Own Name, where women stop whispering their greatness and tell the power of their own stories, with your host, Lillian Obogo. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever in the world you are, and welcome to an episode of In Her Own Name. Now, here we believe that a quiet revolution is happening where women are reclaiming who we are, not just the words that have been labeled to us or how the world wants us to show up, but how we choose to name ourselves. Living, leading, speaking in our own name means owning our stories, our power, and our truth without apology or permission. It's not about becoming someone new, it's about returning to who you've always been. Now, this is our very first episode, and I'm truly deeply excited. For those who know me, I'm Lillian Obogo, and when I get the pleasure of interviewing someone amazing, I can't help but be a total fangirl. So I am going to introduce to you guys who may not know her, and I don't know how you don't, the one and only Sabrina Ramonov. She is a Filipina AI educator. She is a founder, storyteller. This is a woman who basically is changing how AI works for most people and exactly creating AI education for free. For people, I said the free word. She is creating AI education for free. After selling her startup for over 10 million, she stepped back from the hustle to rediscover her purpose. She came back with a mission to teach a million people about AI in ways that are human, joyful, and radically accessible. So please welcome the incredible Sabrina Ramonov.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. That was an incredible introduction. So thank you. Yeah, looking forward to our conversation today.
Oh, I am so excited. So I'm going to say again, thank you for saying yes and joining us. Let's start this. First and foremost, you sold your startup, you sold your business, you got, as they will say, you got the bag, and you decided, nope, I'm done. What was that like?
I mean, it was incredibly exciting to sell my company and have a win under my belt because when I started it with my husband at the time, we didn't have much experience in business or entrepreneurship. We had just graduated college with degrees in computer science, and we're like, let's build an AI company, which, by the way, is very hard in 2013, 2014. It took 7 years for us to build that company. We made every possible mistake that you can think of. And by the end of it, I was pretty burned out, like
Mm.
physically, psychologically, emotionally. And a lot of that period after selling the company was really trying to rediscover, like, what do I want to do with my life? How do I want to serve others? What impact do I want to leave behind? And that's what ultimately led me to making AI education content for free.
Okay, and we thank you for doing that. And on this quest to make AI education for free, accessible to over a million people, you created something called Blotato. Now, the name cracks me up, but it's a platform that helps creators turn one idea into many so their voices can be heard far and wide without burnout. And why Blotato, as in the name?
Oh, so it's actually a nickname for manatees. So my husband and I, we briefly lived in Florida and we love manatees in Florida. So blotato is like kind of like bloated potato or floating potato as a nickname for manatees. And that's why the logo is a manatee.
Now that answers my question because I remember I signed up and I was looking at it. I'm like, okay, there's a manatee. And I didn't put it together. I was like, okay. All right, so that's really cool. Now, okay, we know you as this founder, we know you as an educator. Before you were all of this, who was Sabrina when you first got curious about tech or building things? Who were you before the company, before this big mission? Who were you?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize this, but like my core passion areas have always been the humanities. So like reading, writing, philosophy. When I started in college, I majored in philosophy and wanted to do something with that. And I honestly switched for practical reasons. Like I saw computer science internships, I saw the market exploding and high demand in that. And what really intrigued me and why I started an AI startup was the intersection of humanities and technology. So in my first startup, Curious, we built technology that that could basically analyze what people are saying in real time. Like how an AI meeting assistant can join a call. We had that in 2014, 2015, and it would analyze what's being discussed, objections that, let's say, you're on a customer call, customers are raising, questions customers are asking, analyze it all using natural language processing, speech recognition, and then guide the person on the call to respond. If you're calling in complaining that you can't access your login, AI is analyzing that and helping the human support person be able to respond to you effectively. And so what really intrigued me was that intersection of like language, communication, and technology. And you can tell now from my teaching, like reading and writing and explaining things in simpler ways is just something I'm very passionate about. Like I've always kind of been obsessed with that naturally. And I think that comes across in the way I teach as well. I'll do my best to take a technical concept and like really try to just break it down into something that a person with minimal background can understand and digest and hopefully walk away with something actionable.
So let me say this as somebody who digests your content and shares it far and wide, it's not a hope. You do it very well and you make the complex easy and you do it really well. So now that explains your background in
Oh, thank you.
education and sharing content. So yeah, you do it quite well. So I thought I should say that as well. Now, one of the things I was going to say when I spoke to you about wanting to do an interview with you, one of the things you said you don't normally do interviews, but the reason why you said you were going to do that was basically you wanted to actually connect with women from your background and really have them show up as founders, owners, builders. Why is that important to you?
It's important to me because I didn't have many role models like myself growing up. Similar to my decision to not wear makeup and not dress up for like my TikTok videos and things like that. I just wish when I was younger, I wish I had more role models that were like just really focused on building things, like building businesses and things like that, and like not as focused on appearance, which I know, it floods media of women, young women in particular. When I was growing up, when the Kardashian show came out, I was obsessed with the first season before it went utterly mainstream because they were building businesses,
Yeah.
supposedly, or that's what it looked like to me when I was 12, right? And there was no other show like that on TV. There really wasn't, of like featuring women, specifically like minority women building their own businesses. And so it is a passion of mine just because like I still think a lot of that is lacking in media today, whether it's TikTok or mainstream media like TV shows and things like that. Just not enough examples. So I just try to be the example that I wish I had growing up.
That's awesome. And I think we definitely need more of those examples, especially like I said, for Black and brown women, we need more of those examples. We need more women who are saying, listen, we are building, let's break the system and build something that actually works for us. And let me ask you this. Growing up, looking at your background, looking at how far you've come, what story were you once afraid to tell? And what changed when you finally gave it a voice?
Oh, that's a really tough question. I would say like when I started becoming a content creator and putting myself out there publicly, it brought out a lot of insecurities that I didn't realize I still had. I'll give a very real tangible example. Like people are very afraid of trolls and toxicity online. A comment I still regularly get is like, "Are you a man?" Because my voice is on the lower side of things. And that's an insecurity I've had for like a long time in my life. So when I was a teenager, I dreaded being the one to order pizza on the phone because they'd be like, and they'd pick up and be like, "Oh, hello, sir," and like just assume I was a guy because of my lower voice. And I know
Right.
Layla Hormozy has talked about this as well because she's like a lower voice, but like, being a content creator brings out a lot of insecurities like that. It's not just about the physical. It's like, do you know anything special? Like, why are you worth listening to? Why would anyone take a minute and care about what you have to say? And I think those are like fundamental questions that you have to grapple with in that first few months as a creator. And there's no shortcut to that except like really diving in and exploring those questions for yourself. Even when I started, it wasn't super clear to me like what my mission would be. That slogan, Teach 1 million people AI, came like several months into the journey when it became crystal clear to me like, oh, this is very specifically the audience I want to serve and the impact I want to have. And here's how it aligns with things that I'm really passionate about and good at. For example, like I said, like studying philosophy and writing and being able to distill complex concepts into simple terms. But it took several months, I think, for that to align. And I think a lot of people today, I notice, like beginner content creators, try to figure all of that out before they start, right? The conventional courses like pick your niche and pick this and your content pillars and do that. But like so much of it you figure out along the way by interacting with your audience and also by creating different types of content and realizing, oh, this is what authentically resonates with me and not this over here. Like
Yeah.
people don't know, when I first started, I even had like comedy skits, which I know is hard to imagine. They're all hidden now, they're all private, but like I just experimented with that format because I didn't want to like rule anything out almost. But it was very cringy. Like it's really not my style, and that's okay. Like I figured that out about myself as I continued the process.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you redefined yourself and redefine what looks right for you. And I think that's actually very crucial. Anybody that puts themselves out on the internet, the fear of the backlash, and I think it's gotten worse over time, is like I actually tell myself, do not read the comments, do not read the comments, do not read the comments because they can be really terrible. And it's almost like they forget that there's an actual person who is behind that post, who is actually sharing. So I think, yeah, that is actually really good advice, is understanding that as you build, your niche will change and you will change, and being really willing to actually go in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've made my mistakes too. Like on TikTok, I have made videos with over 100,000 people viewing it with things that were just completely wrong. For example, I thought this game that somebody vibe coded, like they actually vibe coded, but it was a parody on Twitter, and I got blasted for that. But I kept that video up because it's like it's okay. Like I took ownership for it. I took accountability for it. I said, "Oh yeah, this was wrong." And I ended up vibe coding my own version of Elden Ring anyway, just to prove that you could do it. Of course, that one doesn't go viral. It's only the mistake that goes viral, but it's okay. Like your life will continue. Just own up to it, be transparent. It really is the most important thing to be authentic about it. Because like when you try to lie or hide or like just you try to just not take accountability for the mistakes you've made, that's when things get very twisted and you're like clinging on to an image that is not real anymore. So I always encourage creators to just be as authentic as possible. If you make a mistake, own up to it. I know the comments can be harsh, but like as you grow, you're gonna find like your community of people who absolutely resonate with you and appreciate your work. And I just try to focus on serving those people.
And yep, I think we that's the keynote. We should just focus on the people that we're serving, not the peanut gallery.
Mhm.
And the peanut gallery will always be there and the people we're serving will always surface. And so I think if content creators, and actually that doesn't just apply to content creators, it applies to women in day jobs who are trying to find their way in leadership, there will always be someone who will have something to say. So I think that that's a very good thing to kind of anchor our hat to and hold to.
Yeah, and I think also I see a lot of people like get scared of disagreements, but it's okay for people to disagree. It's just, are they doing it respectfully?
Yeah.
So I think there's a big difference between people agreeing with you versus disagreeing with you thoughtfully versus toxicity, like just
Yes.
straight up like attacking you personally or just being mean personally. But I love videos and posts that get natural disagreement because then you can see different sides of how people are thinking. For example, one post that went viral was about using AI ChatGPT for therapy. And there are very heated arguments on both sides, stories on both sides, perspectives from people who work in healthcare. And that's fascinating to me. And I love that people can just share different perspectives in a way that's thoughtful and elevate everyone's awareness of the problem. Right. And so that stuff I love. It's the toxicity kind of comments that I think people are overly concerned about, but that's a very, very tiny percentage of the comments that you're going to get on social media. So I would say like don't be afraid of like disagreement. And in fact, it's a good thing if you're stimulating that kind of discussion online on social media. Like it's much more useful than making like another entertaining cat video, although I love cat videos as well. But there are certain topics in AI where I do feel like as a society collectively, we should be discussing the pros and cons more so that we can have a voice and like how do we shape these guidelines? How do we shape these technologies moving forward?
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, that's something that we need to do, especially that part about shaping those technologies going forward. And I think we definitely need more women in the room to make sure those technologies are being shaped in a way that is good for us all. And so let's move on because we're talking about the show being in her own name, and we're talking about how we redefine power for ourselves as women, as leaders, as individuals. So, how have you redefined what power looks like for you in your life or leadership?
I think before I started creating content, my conception of power was like who accomplished the most. Basically, who had the most impressive resume. And that's probably been brainwashed into me ever since school, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like that get good grades, go to a nice school, major in something well, get a nice job. It's like
Yes.
check boxes, resume. That was my conception of like power and success. This will sound cheesy, but now that I'm a creator, I really see the value of authenticity. I know that word gets thrown around a lot. And what does it mean? It means like you are aligned with your purpose in life and what you're spending time on, and you're not hiding key parts of yourself. I'm not saying show everything to social media, like maybe
Yeah.
don't show your family if you don't want to cross that line, but like like these things need to be aligned, like your public face, what you really think, what you're actually saying, and where you're spending your time. Is it in something that re-energizes you and has purpose? Because if not, that's when you get to kind of like the burnout that I was talking about earlier. And that misalignment, I think, causes a lot of anxiety and stress because
Mm.
you feel something is not quite resonating in your life, but you can't pinpoint it. So it's like a slow burn until one
Right.
day you're like, how did I get here? And why am I not doing the things I want to be doing at this age, for example? Like that's a common refrain I hear from women, especially. So to me, yeah, my definition of power is has shifted a lot to mean like personal power and alignment of like all the major things in your life. Because I think when everything's aligned, like life is, you have so much more energy. You feel the passion and purpose naturally. It's not a forced thing that you have to meditate on in the morning. Like it's just you enjoy the things you're doing, the people you're
Yeah.
spending time with, and the impact you're having on other people's lives.
That's a good way to look at power. And that's a great way to look at power. And it's a great shift from, like you said, the check boxes to are you living the life that you're proud of? Are you living the life that your 6 year old version of you would be like, oh my God, you are amazing? Are you doing that? And are you making the world slightly better? And I think that is actually a good way to redefine that. So we're going to move on. And going back to the fact that we're talking about the show and we're saying in her own name, what we have here is this idea that we get to choose how we live, how we lead, how we speak, how we show up, how we even own the stories we tell. So let me ask you, can you describe a moment in your journey where you felt most fully in your own name, fully seen, fully you, and how that changed everything? And I'm going to preface it because people, let me go again. This is a woman who is teaching people every day about AI. She is on all the platforms. You will find her on Instagram, Threads. You will find her everywhere. And I literally am following her everywhere. So you were everywhere. But for you, when was that time that you actually felt fully seen for yourself?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think like my weekly office hours in my Blotato community is probably one of those times because I get to just like answer people's real-time questions and like show my expertise, but also say when I don't know things, right? I think it's very powerful for people to see that side of me where it's like on one hand, I can try to debug your workflow automation in real time and give you advice on X, Y, and Z topics. But at the same time, it's I'm running into an area I don't know much about, then I just openly admit it. Because I think on TikTok and the other platforms, because of the time constraint, it's so hard to like convey everything in 45 seconds that I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes I'll ramble for like 3 minutes and then cut out a lot. So there's still like different dimensions of my message that are not spoken.
Right.
Whereas in that community setting, it's a bit more intimate, like 50 to 100 folks, and many of the people know each other now. And like I feel like I can just be more myself, and it's okay if I ramble for 3 minutes. That I don't have to edit those parts out for the sake of going viral on TikTok or
Yeah.
anything like that. And so that's probably like the time I look forward to a lot every single week, just connecting with people, what they're doing, and hoping I can help them with some of their challenges.
Awesome. I love that. And I've been threatening to come to the office hours. It's just the time and it's never actually worked just because other things are going on. But I will make it to an office hour and hang out with you because I think you're amazing. So let's kind of, I know I can't keep you for long. I will want to talk to you for hours and hours, but I can't keep you for long. So here's what we're going to ask. What does joy look like for you now and how has that evolved?
Yeah, I think I it's so cheesy when I say this, but it comes from community now, which I never thought was a tangible thing, to be honest with you. Like my first startup, Curious, we didn't have any like kind of community around the company. And in San Francisco, like in our neighborhood, there wasn't like a sense of community either,
Hmm.
like where I lived. And like that's completely changed for me now being on social media. It's super weird, but I feel community and connectedness with so many people I've never met before. I read messages, we DM each other, and we're both trying to learn something and we share tips. And like there is very much that sense of community and serving that community, which is where I draw my energy and joy from nowadays. And so it's
That.
radically changed a lot. Like I would say before it was just from like achieving success, like, oh, I achieved this, check
Right.
again, checkbox concept, resume, add another line item to the resume. And now it's like my favorite part of the day is just like I wake up, open emails, and I'll see emails from people sharing how my education has impacted their life. For example, if they're like, I thought I was too old to get into AI and learn this stuff. You've made it so accessible, and I enjoy using ChatGPT every day.
Awesome.
Or I made a really big career decision, career transition using your education to guide me along the way, and it's made this impact in my life. And so, those are the things I live for now. That's my source of joy.
I do love that. And I can see that that will be so rewarding and that would actually be a great thing to wake up to just see how you're impacting people. Let me put it this way. Your post today, and I saw it on Instagram where you talked about the 3 ways that people can make over 10,000 pounds, sorry, $10,000 a month. And you broke it down in 3 ways from starting a community for parents so their kids can learn AI, start using AI, and going into small businesses to actually educate them on how to use chat gpt in your business for their particular use cases. And the other one was helping people to vibe code so that they can create their own apps. And I was like, let me take notes, just you never know. So I'm taking notes and everything. So and you make it sound so simple and easy that it's like, okay, let's try this. Let's try one of them. And that's the thing. And I think just yeah, I just want you to know that that is just really amazing, and I love that that is now part of your joy. Now we're going to talk about this question where we're looking at how the world tends to talk to women, sometimes talk at us most of the time, that sometimes trying to edit, erase, or fit us into a box that sounds a particular way. How do you stay rooted in your truth, in truth for you?
Yeah, and the I see the larger problem here. It goes back to like lack of role models and examples. Like when I started making TikTok, there weren't many women who looked like me trying to teach these things. There's more now, but like not many by any stretch. And so it is difficult because I hear from a lot of women who I know are super talented, but they don't want to put themselves out there on social media because they don't want to deal with like the toxicity and
Yeah.
backlash and being spoken to in a condescending way and having to like always justify their background and their abilities and credentials. And I get that, but without more role models, this problem just gets worse over time because
Yeah.
what's happening with AI is it's going to continue amplifying existing voices. And without new voices from folks of color, like, it's only going to make the problem worse. In terms of how I kind of deal with it, I do take a kind of check-in once a week when I make content. And I'm like, how do I feel about the content I made last week? Because if I'm making content that just doesn't feel good for me for whatever reason, for example, for a week I tried making content about some of the negative things around AI, like impacting the environment, obviously, is one of them. Being trained on copyrighted work is another
Yeah.
one. And I wanted to showcase a balanced perspective, but it also didn't feel good, like trying to put so much emphasis on the negative instead of the positive. Here's what you can do with it positively to impact
Yeah.
your personal and work life. And that equation looks a little bit different for everyone. But just I'm saying for me, I felt a lot better when I was talking more about here's how it can enable you and empower you instead of being like, here's all the negative things that it's currently doing. And but that's a personal choice. I think you have to reflect on that on a regular basis. Like, is your content going in a direction that doesn't feel good to you, but you're just doing it for clicks? Because that's a common trap creators will fall into. They'll notice a certain type of hook works really well. Usually it's negative and controversial. Newsflash, because people latch onto that, and that's
Yeah.
why it goes viral. But you might realize like that's not the type of content that you want to produce a lot of. And that's a personal choice you have to kind of make and just monitor as you go along in your journey.
Okay. And that's a good point. You have to stick to what's true for you. So thank
Mhm.
you for sharing that. So I want to ask, looking at your journey so far, what would you whisper or shout to your 18-year-old self?
Ooh, so my 18-year-old self, like, ooh, that's a tough one. I was so obsessed with like the resume, so obsessed with like achievements. And then when I moved to San Francisco, like I was amazed by the tech, but I didn't feel like my reading, writing, and philosophy interests had a fit.
Right.
So I always felt like not the right fit for Silicon Valley and like the very typical, like super deeply technical type of person. And so that was hard for me to kind of accept. Like I always tried to be something other than I was instead of just like leveraging the skills that I'm so good at them and passionate about them. I don't consider them skills. I just
Right.
consider them the things I do. I like to
Yeah.
read. I like to write. I like to do those things. So I would probably advise my 18-year-old self a couple things like stop trying to be someone else. Like really
Right.
double down on the things you actually enjoy. Number one. Number two, I think at 18, I was pretty obsessed over like my appearance, like many young women are. So even in college, I'd wear makeup, wear a dress,
Yeah.
look a certain way. And that wasn't me either. So, like, again, stop trying to be someone else to fit in, to gain
Yeah.
more power because you get more attention when you look a certain way. And probably the third thing I'd advise at 18, it's you're so young. Like, it's not like your life is over at 30. Like, I hear that commonly amongst women in my generation. I'm a millennial. It's like, oh, I didn't accomplish like financial independence by 30. I'm off track. I'm like, uh, oh, like who put that standard there is another thing I'd question. Like
Yeah.
where did these goals come from? When I
Oh
talk
yeah.
about like resume building, where did that come from? Like, so those are kind of that's before mind blowing my 18-year-old self with too much. Those are probably the three things I'd focus on.
I think those are really good things. And I think even your, the 18-year-old, the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, and the 40-year-old, because that whole concept, that piece you say where, oh my God, I'm 30, I haven't done XYZ, my life is over. And it's like, oh, Jesus. And or you have the, oh, Forbes 30 under 30, Forbes, this and that. I'm like, most of the people who are great didn't start doing their great things until some of them were in their 50s, in their 60s.
Mm,
And I can't remember, he's a painter. He started painting when he was 78 and had his first gallery showing when he was 80.
mm-hmm. Wow.
So I think giving ourselves that room to kind of breathe and relax is going to be will make our world a little bit better. So, Sabrina, I want to say thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your
Yeah.
truth with us and sharing your journey with us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Guys, we're going to be coming back with another interview. So if you want to find out more about Sabrina and her work, she is all over socials. Don't worry, I'll put a list of all her socials where you can find her. If you want to find out about Blotato, I'll put the link to Blotato as well. So, Sabrina, if there's anything that you would like the crew to know about Blotato, about joining, what it does for them very quickly before we wrap up, that will be perfect.
Yeah. So basically, it's a tool I built for myself to scale my education and my voice across social media. So if you are creating content or running a business and you'd like more awareness around what you're doing, definitely check out Blotato. I built it to kind of be an all in one tool so you don't have to pay for 10 other subscriptions to help you create amazing content.
Okay. So, guys, you have the link to Potato. You have the link to find Sabrina. And I will say, use her content. She tells us all the time, use my content. Use the content because it's going to help you just shortcut your knowledge so that you can actually use these AI tools in the best way possible. So, again, Sabrina, thank you for sharing your knowledge, not just here on the show, but generally. And thank you for being on the show again.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Okay, cool.
Thanks for listening to In Her Own Name. Step into your week lit up, aligned, and fully you. If you are enjoying this podcast, share it with your people. Don't let them miss out. And connect with us on all places social.